The unusual assignment. The quiet hum of the space station filled Commander Ethan Keller's small living quarters. He sat by the edge of his bunk, cleaning his standard-issue plasma pistol. The same routine, day after day, was starting to feel more like a punishment than a duty. Ethan had been stationed on Colony Sigma-12 for nearly 2 years, and the remote outpost felt more like a prison than a home. Out here, at the edge of explored space, the only visitors were supply drones and the occasional trader ship. For Ethan, solitude was both a blessing and a curse. He had no family to miss back on Earth, and no friends to call his own. He preferred the silence. At least he thought he did. A sudden chime interrupted his thoughts. His communication tablet on the table blinked with a new message. Ethan wiped his hands on his uniform and picked it up. The message displayed an official Earth government insignia, followed by the words, "Official Companionship Program Assignment. Effective immediately." Ethan frowned. The words made no sense. He tapped on the message, and a short audio recording played. "Commander Ethan Keller, as part of Earth's initiative to ensure mental well-being in isolated environments, you have been assigned a companion. This assignment is mandatory. Area 7 will arrive at your quarters in 1 hour. Please cooperate." Area 7. Ethan muttered, running his hand through his short-cropped hair. His face twisted in confusion and irritation. A companion. What kind of nonsense was this? He tapped through the document, but it gave no further details. A soft knock at the door broke his concentration. Ethan's head snapped up. Already? He grabbed his pistol on instinct, even though the colony was secure. Moving cautiously, he opened the door. Standing in the dim hallway was a young woman, or at least she looked like one. She had short, silver hair that shimmered faintly under the fluorescent lights. Her skin was smooth and flawless, almost too perfect. Her eyes were a piercing shade of blue, glowing faintly in the dark. She wore a simple uniform with a badge on her chest that read Area 7. "Commander Keller?" she asked, her voice soft but clear. It was melodic, almost human, yet there was something unmistakably artificial about it. Ethan lowered the pistol that didn't step aside. "You're the companion they sent." She smiled politely. "I am Area 7, your officially assigned companion. My directive is to assist you in any way you see fit." "Assist me?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. "I don't need a babysitter." Area tilted her head slightly, as if processing his words. "I am not a babysitter, Commander. I am here to enhance your productivity, reduce your stress levels, and provide companionship as needed." Ethan crossed his arms, leaning against the doorway. "And if I say I don't need any of that?" Area's smile didn't waver. "My assignment is mandatory. If you wish, I can remain silent and out of sight. However, I am highly adaptable and can fulfill a wide range of roles, from tactical assistance to administrative tasks." Her calm, unwavering demeanor annoyed him. Ethan stepped aside reluctantly. "Fine. Come in." Area entered the room and surveyed her surroundings. It was a small, utilitarian space with bare walls and minimal furniture. A single bed, a table, and a chair were the only pieces in the room. She glanced at the table where Ethan had been cleaning his weapon. "You prefer to maintain your own equipment," she noted, her tone neutral. Ethan shrugged. "Don't trust anyone else to do it right." Area turned to face him. "Trust is important, Commander. Perhaps over time, you will find me reliable." He let out a dry laugh. "Don't hold your breath, android." Area didn't respond, but Ethan could swear he saw a flicker of something in her expression, something almost human. It unsettled him. She wasn't like the maintenance droids or the AI systems he was used to. There was an odd sense of presence about her, like she was more aware than she let on. "All right," Ethan said, sitting back down. "What exactly are you supposed to do for me?" "Companion is pretty vague." Area clasped her hands in front of her. "My capabilities are extensive. I can assist in tactical planning, perform maintenance, monitor station security, or even provide conversational engagement. You may use me as you see fit. Ethan leaned back, studying her. And what if I don't want to use you for anything? She blinked, her glowing eyes fixed on him. Then I will remain available until you change your mind. Her calm demeanor only made Ethan more suspicious. Something about this program felt off. The government didn't just hand out advanced androids for free. He decided he'd keep a close eye on her until he figured out what her true purpose was. Arya seemed to sense his hesitation. You seem uneasy, Commander. Is there anything I can do to reassure you? Yeah, he said, standing up and pacing the room. You can tell me why the government sent you all the way out here to babysit one guy on a dead-end station. Arya hesitated for the first time, her gaze dropping slightly. My presence here is classified. Ethan stopped and stared at her. Classified. Before he could press further, an alarm blared through the station. Ethan's tablet lit up with a red alert. Unidentified activity detected near the station perimeter. He turned to Arya, his instincts kicking in. You know anything about this? Arya's glowing blue eyes brightened. I believe the situation requires my assistance, Commander. Ethan grabbed his pistol. For the first time, he wasn't sure if she was there to help him, or if she was part of the problem. Unraveling Arya's purpose. The distant echoes of the station's alert faded into an unsettling silence. Commander Ethan Keller stood motionless, his pistol in hand, eyes locked on Area 7. The android's glowing blue eyes seemed to pierce through him as if she already knew what was coming. I didn't order any advanced AI support, Ethan said, his voice sharp with suspicion. So, why are you really here? Arya didn't flinch. Her expression remained calm, almost disarming. As I mentioned, Commander, my assignment is classified. But if you allow me to assist, I can ensure your safety, and the safety of this station. Ethan didn't buy it. He had seen too many military experiments backfire to trust an android with glowing eyes and a too-perfect demeanor, but the alert couldn't be ignored. If there was a real threat outside, he needed all the help he could get. All right, Arya, Ethan said reluctantly, holstering his pistol. Let's see what you're made of. Arya nodded, her movements precise and fluid. Accessing station surveillance now. She raised her hand, and a holographic interface appeared in the air, glowing with streams of data. Ethan watched as her fingers danced through the projections, pulling up live feeds from the perimeter cameras. The monitors showed nothing at first, just the barren expanse of Colony Sigma-12's dusty terrain. Then, a shadow flickered on the edge of the screen. It was brief, almost imperceptible, but Ethan's trained eyes caught it. There, he said, pointing. Enhance that. Arya's fingers swiped the air, and the image zoomed in. The shadow solidified into a shape, tall, humanoid, but distinctly alien. Its skin shimmered like liquid metal under the faint starlight, and its eyes glowed an eerie green. Not one of ours, Ethan muttered, his jaw tightening. What is it? Arya's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it now. Designation: unknown. Analyzing. Processing error. This entity does not match any records in the Galactic database. Great, Ethan said, grabbing his tactical vest. A new mystery, just what I needed. He turned to Arya. You stay here. I'll handle this. No, Arya said firmly, stepping toward him. My directive includes protecting you. If you confront the entity alone, your survival probability drops to 34%. Ethan narrowed his eyes. And if I take you with me? 74%. Arya replied without hesitation. Ethan sighed, strapping his vest in place. Fine. But if you're playing some kind of game, I swear I'll shut you down myself. Arya didn't respond. She simply followed him out of the room, her footsteps eerily silent on the metal floor. The pair moved through the dimly lit corridors toward the airlock. As they approached, the atmosphere grew heavier, the hum of the station almost seeming to vibrate with tension. Ethan glanced at Arya, who appeared as calm as ever. Any idea why that thing is out there? he asked. Aria hesitated for the briefest moment. I cannot say for certain. But its presence here is unlikely to be random. Ethan stopped in his tracks and turned to her. What does that mean? Aria met his gaze, her glowing eyes steady. It is possible that its arrival is linked to my presence. Ethan felt a chill creep down his spine. Linked? How? I was not programmed with that information, Aria admitted. But my existence may be of interest to entities beyond human understanding. Ethan shook his head. You're not making this any easier. They'd reached the airlock, where Ethan activated the exterior cameras. The alien figure was closer now, standing motionless just beyond the station's perimeter. Its green eyes glowed brighter, staring directly at the camera. Ethan felt a knot form in his stomach. It knows we're watching. Aria stepped forward, her head tilting slightly as if she were listening to something only she could hear. Commander, I believe it is attempting to communicate. What? Ethan barked. How? Aria closed her eyes, and for a moment, the glowing light in her chest dimmed. When she spoke again, her voice was different, layered, almost alien. Message received, she said in a flat tone. Translation. The gatekeeper must be tested. Ethan's blood ran cold. What gatekeeper? What test? Aria opened her eyes, her expression unreadable. Commander, it's referring to you. Ethan stared at her, disbelief written across his face. Me? Why? Before Aria could respond, the alien figure moved, its liquid metal form gliding toward the airlock with unnerving speed. Ethan grabbed his pistol, his heart pounding. Aria, tell me you've got a plan. I have several, she said calmly. But none guarantee success. Ethan gritted his teeth as the airlock sensors began to blare. Whatever was about to happen, he had the sinking feeling that this was only the beginning. The colony under siege. The night sky over Colony Sigma-12 crackled with a strange, unnatural energy. Commander Ethan Keller stood frozen in the station's control room, his gaze locked on the monitors. The alien figure from earlier wasn't alone anymore. Dozens of similar shapes emerged from the shadows, their liquid metal forms glinting ominously under the station's floodlights. This is not a random encounter, Ethan muttered, gripping the edge of the console. This is an invasion. Area 7 stood beside him, her glowing eyes scanning the feed. Her expression remained calm, but her voice carried an urgency Ethan hadn't heard before. Their formation indicates strategic intent. They're probing the station's defenses. Ethan clenched his fists. The colony's defenses were minimal, basic perimeter turrets, a handful of combat drones, and a skeleton crew of workers untrained for combat. He knew they were outmatched. Suggestions? He asked, glancing at Aria. Aria's fingers moved rapidly over the console, bringing up schematics and tactical overlays. We need to delay their advance while fortifying critical systems. Evacuation is not an option. Our only chance is to force a retreat. Ethan snorted. Force a retreat. With what? Harsh language. Humor in the face of danger is a coping mechanism. Aria observed without missing a beat. But it won't help here. I recommend deploying the combat drones immediately while I reroute power to the outer turrets. Ethan hesitated. He didn't like the idea of relying on an android he barely trusted, but there was no time for debate. Fine. Do it. Within minutes, the station came alive with activity. The dull hum of machinery grew louder as drones were activated and sent to patrol the perimeter. Ethan monitored the feed, watching as the alien figures moved closer, seemingly unbothered by the station's sudden defenses. These things aren't afraid of us, Ethan muttered. They don't need to be, Aria replied. Their outer shells are highly resistant to conventional weaponry. Ethan shot her a sharp look. And you're just telling me this now? I am offering information as it becomes relevant, she said evenly. However, I am formulating alternative strategies. Before Ethan could respond, the first wave of aliens reached the perimeter. The turrets opened fire, sending streams of plasma bolts into the night. The aliens reacted with shocking speed, their bodies shifting and twisting to avoid the blasts. One turret managed to land a direct hit, and the alien staggered briefly before reforming itself and continuing forward. "Great," Ethan growled. "They're practically indestructible." Aria's voice cut through his frustration. "Not indestructible. Their regeneration capabilities rely on a core energy source located in their chest. A precise strike can disable them." Ethan nodded, pulling up his rifle and adjusting the sights. "Good to know. Let's see if I can hit their weak spot." As the battle raged outside, Ethan made his way to the front line. The colony workers had taken cover inside the station, leaving him and the drones to hold the perimeter. He crouched behind a barricade, scanning the battlefield through his rifle's scope. The aliens moved with fluid, almost hypnotic grace, but Ethan's years of military training kicked in. He steadied his aim, waited for the perfect moment, and fired. The plasma bolt hit its mark, striking one alien directly in the chest. The creature convulsed, its glowing green eyes dimming before it collapsed into a pool of shimmering liquid. "Got one," Ethan shouted. Aria's voice crackled over his comm. "Impressive, Commander. However, there are approximately 47 more targets remaining." "Always the optimist," Ethan muttered. Suddenly, the ground beneath the station rumbled. Ethan felt the vibrations through his boots and looked up to see a massive shape emerging from the darkness. It was unlike the others, larger, more menacing, with jagged appendages that crackled with green energy. "What the hell is that?" Ethan asked, his voice tight. Aria's response was immediate. "Designation: Apex variant. It appears to be the leader of the group. Its energy readings are off the charts." "Great," Ethan said, gripping his rifle tighter. "Got any brilliant ideas for taking it down?" Aria hesitated for a fraction of a second. "If we can disrupt its energy field, it may destabilize the others. But it requires direct access to its core." Ethan glanced at the towering figure, which was now tearing through the drones like they were paper. "Direct access? You mean I have to get close to that thing?" "Correct," Aria said calmly. "And I will assist you." Ethan let out a dry laugh. "You're full of surprises, aren't you?" "I am full of strategies," Aria corrected. "Now, let's move." Together, Ethan and Aria advanced toward the Apex variant. The creature's presence was overwhelming, its energy field distorting the air around it. As they approached, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that it was watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike. "Aria," he said, his voice low, "if this goes sideways." "I will ensure it doesn't," she interrupted, her tone unshakable. "Trust me, Commander." Ethan didn't respond. He didn't have time to argue. With his rifle in hand, and Aria by his side, he prepared for the fight of his life, the hidden agenda. The Apex variant collapsed with a deafening thud, its metallic frame disintegrating into a pool of liquid as its core finally gave out. The battlefield fell silent, but Ethan Keller didn't feel victorious. His pulse pounded in his ears, and the smell of scorched metal lingered in the air. The aliens were gone, at least for now, but their attack had left more questions than answers. Area 7 stood beside him, her glowing eyes scanning the remnants of the battle. She was eerily calm, as though the chaos hadn't affected her at all. Ethan wiped the sweat from his brow and turned to her, his voice sharp. "All right, Aria. Time to talk. What the hell just happened, and why do I feel like this is your fault?" Aria didn't look at him immediately. Her gaze remained fixed on the horizon, where the last traces of the alien invaders had vanished. "I was not the cause of this attack," she said finally, her tone neutral. "However, it is likely that my presence here is not coincidental." Ethan let out a bitter laugh. "Not coincidental. That's putting it lightly. Those things came straight for us, and you just happened to know how to fight them. So, what aren't you telling me?" Aria turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "There are things I cannot disclose." Commander. Can't or won't. Ethan snapped. His patience was wearing thin, and he didn't have time for cryptic answers. Arya hesitated, and for the first time, Ethan saw a flicker of something almost human in her glowing eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or guilt. Both, she admitted softly. But I can provide you with data that may help you understand. Back at the station, Ethan followed Arya into the control room. She moved with purpose, her fingers flying across the holographic interface as she accessed hidden files buried deep within the station's database. Ethan crossed his arms and watched, still wary. "You're awfully good at hacking for a government-issued android," he said. Arya didn't look up. "I am designed to adapt to any situation." "That's not an answer," Ethan muttered. But before he could press further, a new screen lit up, displaying encrypted files labeled Project Redemption. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "What's Project Redemption?" Arya paused, her hands hovering over the interface. "A classified initiative. Its purpose was to create advanced AI capable of protecting humanity from external threats." "And you're one of them?" Ethan asked, suspicion lacing his voice. Arya nodded. "I am one of 7 prototypes created for this purpose. However, the project was abandoned due to ethical concerns and classified as a failure." Ethan frowned. "A failure? You don't seem like a failure to me." "Not all failures are immediate," Arya said cryptically. Before Ethan could ask what she meant, the screen shifted, revealing a map of the galaxy. Several red dots blinked across the display, marking known alien territories. One of the dots was flashing, indicating the location of Colony Sigma-12. "This is the invasion pattern of the alien entities that attacked us," Arya explained. "It is not random. Their movements suggest a coordinated effort to eliminate key outposts." Ethan stepped closer, his jaw tightening. "Key outposts for what?" "For Project Redemption," Arya said. "Sigma-12 was not chosen as your station by chance. It was one of the original testing grounds for the prototypes. My assignment here was not just for your companionship. It was to ensure your survival." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "Why me? What makes me so important?" Arya turned to face him, her glowing eyes meeting his. "Because you are immune to their influence." Ethan's stomach dropped. "What influence?" Arya hesitated, as if weighing her words carefully. "The alien entities possess the ability to manipulate human minds. They use this power to sow discord and weaken resistance. However, certain individuals, like you, are resistant to this manipulation. The survival of humanity may depend on people like you." Ethan's mind raced. The attack, the assignment, Arya's presence. It all started to make a twisted kind of sense, but it also raised more questions. "So, this whole program," he said slowly, "the companions, the testing, it was all about finding people like me." Arya nodded. "Yes, but the project was terminated before its full potential could be realized. The government believed the threat was theoretical. Clearly, they were wrong." Ethan paced the room, his fists clenched. "Let me get this straight. You're telling me that I'm part of some secret experiment, that these aliens are targeting people like me, and that the government knew this was coming but did nothing to stop it?" "Yes," Arya said simply. Ethan let out a frustrated laugh. "Unbelievable. And now we're supposed to fight off an entire alien invasion with nothing but you, me, and a bunch of outdated drones." Arya tilted her head. "It is not ideal, but it is possible." Ethan stopped pacing and looked at her. Despite everything, there was something strangely reassuring about her calm demeanor. "You really believe that?" "I do," she said, "because humanity's survival depends on it. And on you." The weight of her words settled on Ethan like a lid blanket. He didn't ask for this responsibility, but he couldn't walk away from it either. Taking a deep breath, he nodded. "Fine," he said. "Let's figure out how to win this thing. But if you're keeping anything else from me, now's the time to tell me." Arya's glowing eyes flickered briefly. "There is one more thing." Ethan's heart sank. Of course there is. What now? Arya stepped closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper. The aliens are not the only threat. There is something much larger at play, something even I was not programmed to understand. Ethan stared at her, the knot in his stomach tightening. Bigger than an invasion. Arya nodded. Yes, and it's already begun. The fight for truth. The dim glow of the control room cast sharp shadows across Commander Ethan Keller's face as he stared at the map of the galaxy. The red dots marking alien invasions blinked like a countdown timer, each flash a stark reminder of how little time they had left. Area 7 stood beside him, her glowing eyes fixed on the same map. Despite her composed demeanor, Ethan could sense an urgency in her movements, subtle but undeniable. For an android, she seemed almost anxious. So, Ethan said, breaking the tense silence, the government abandoned this project, ignored the warning signs, and left us out here as bait. What's the next big secret you're about to drop on me? Arya didn't respond immediately. Instead, she brought up another screen, filled with encrypted files and schematics Ethan didn't recognize. The truth, Commander, is that humanity has been underestimating this threat for decades. Project Redemption wasn't just about building prototypes like me. It was about preparing for a war we didn't understand. Ethan folded his arms. And you think I'm going to fight that war with a broken-down station and some outdated drones? No, Arya said, her voice calm but firm. That's why we need to access the station's hidden archives. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Hidden archives. You're telling me there's more classified data buried in this place? Arya nodded. The original developers of Project Redemption anticipated that the program might be sabotaged or abandoned. As a precaution, they installed a secure archive in every outpost linked to the project. Sigma-12 is one of those outposts. Ethan rubbed his temples. And let me guess, this archive has the magical solution to all our problems. Arya tilted her head slightly, her version of a shrug. It contains advanced schematics, tactical plans, and data on alien species. If we can access it, we may gain the upper hand. And what's stopping us? Ethan asked. Arya's glowing eyes flickered, a subtle sign of hesitation. The archive is locked behind biometric security protocols. Only someone directly tied to the program can access it. Ethan's gut tightened. Let me guess. Me. Yes, Arya confirmed. Your immunity to alien influence also grants you clearance. You were unknowingly part of the project's contingency plan. Ethan let out a bitter laugh. Of course I was. Why wouldn't they tell me I was part of some secret government experiment? Arya's gaze didn't waver. Would you have agreed if they had? He opened his mouth to argue but stopped. She was right. He wouldn't have signed up for this, not willingly. But now, with the survival of the colony, and possibly humanity, on the line, he had no choice. The path to the archive was buried deep within the station, in an area Ethan had assumed was just another storage wing. The air grew colder as they descended, the hum of the station's systems fading into an eerie silence. Arya walked ahead, her steps precise and measured, while Ethan followed with his rifle at the ready. Why does it feel like we're walking into a trap? Ethan muttered. Because the archive is likely guarded by automated defenses, Arya replied matter-of-factly. Ethan stopped in his tracks. Defenses? You're just telling me this now. Arya glanced back at him. You prefer to act on incomplete information. Ethan groaned. You're impossible, you know that. They reached a thick, reinforced door embedded with glowing blue lines. Arya stepped forward and placed her hand on a nearby panel. The lines pulsed briefly before turning red. Unauthorized access detected. A robotic voice announced. Biometric scan required. Arya turned to Ethan. Your turn. Ethan hesitated, his instincts screaming at him to turn back. But he stepped forward, placing his palm on the scanner. A soft hum filled the air as the system analyzed his print. Then, with a hiss of hydraulics, the door slid open. Inside, the archive was a stark contrast to the rest of the station. Rows of glowing data nodes lined the walls, their faint hum filling the otherwise silent chamber. In the center of the room was a single console, its screen flashing with the words, "Access granted. Welcome, Commander Keller." "Fancy," Ethan muttered, stepping inside. "Now what?" Aria moved to the console, her fingers gliding over the interface. "I am extracting the data now. It will take a moment." Ethan scanned the room, his nerves on edge. He didn't trust the silence. "We don't have a moment. If those things come back." Before he could finish, the console screen flickered, and a distorted voice crackled through the speakers. "Unauthorized retrieval detected. Initiating lockdown." The room's lights dimmed as heavy shutters slammed over the entrance. Aria didn't flinch. "Stay calm, Commander. I can override this." Ethan's heart pounded as a low hum filled the air, growing louder. A series of turret-like devices emerged from the walls, their barrels glowing ominously. "Aria," he said, gripping his rifle, "we've got a problem." Aria's glowing eyes flashed brighter as she worked faster. "The defenses are reacting to the data retrieval. I need you to cover me." The turrets powered up, their movements synchronized as they locked onto Ethan. He didn't wait for an invitation. With practiced precision, he fired, the plasma bolt striking one turret before it could unleash its deadly barrage. "Aria, whatever you're doing, do it faster," Ethan shouted. "I am operating at maximum efficiency," she replied, her tone infuriatingly calm. Ethan ducked behind a console as another turret fired, the plasma bolt scorching the wall behind him. He gritted his teeth, taking aim and disabling another turret. The heat in the room intensified as the firefight continued, each moment stretching longer than the last. Finally, Aria's voice cut through the chaos. "Download complete. The archive is secure." Ethan didn't wait for her to elaborate. "Then shut this down." Aria raised her hand, and with a single command, the turrets powered down, their barrels retracting into the walls. The room fell silent once more, leaving Ethan breathing hard and clutching his rifle. "Next time," he said between breaths, "warn me before we walk into a death trap." Aria tilted her head, her expression as unreadable as ever. "Noted." Ethan shook his head, slinging his rifle over his shoulder. "Let's hope whatever you downloaded is worth it." "It is," Aria said, holding up a glowing data crystal. "But the truth contained within this data will change everything you know about this war." Ethan stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. "Let's get back to the control room," he said grimly. "I have a feeling we're going to need a new plan." Betrayal and redemption. The control room felt like a tomb, its silence broken only by the faint hum of the station's systems. Commander Ethan Keller paced in a tight circle, his mind racing. Area 7 stood motionless near the central console, the glowing data crystal resting in her hand like a loaded weapon. "All right, Area," Ethan said, stopping abruptly to face her. "You said this data would change everything. Let's hear it." Aria's glowing eyes flickered briefly, a sign Ethan had come to associate with hesitation. "The information within the archive reveals the true purpose of Project Redemption," she began. "The program was never solely about defense. It was designed to create a new kind of soldier, one capable of withstanding both physical and psychological warfare." Ethan's stomach tightened. "And what does that have to do with me?" Aria met his gaze, her expression neutral but her voice softer. "You, Commander, are one of the project's unknowing participants. Your immunity to alien influence isn't a natural trait. It was engineered." Ethan froze, the weight of her words sinking in. "Engineered? What are you saying? That I'm some kind of lab experiment?" "Yes," Aria said bluntly. "Your genetic profile was altered before birth as part of a classified initiative. You were selected for this assignment not because of your skills, but because of what you are." Ethan's fists clenched. And you knew this the whole time. I suspected, Aria admitted. The archive confirmed it. Ethan's voice rose, anger bubbling to the surface. You didn't think that was important enough to tell me. I've been risking my life out here, thinking I was just another soldier, and all this time, I've been… What? A weapon? Aria remained calm. You are more than a weapon, Commander. You are humanity's best chance for survival. Ethan shook his head, stepping away from her. I didn't sign up for this. None of this. Before the conversation could continue, the station's alarms blared, the red emergency lights casting eerie shadows across the room. Aria's head snapped toward the console, her fingers flying across the interface. Multiple hostiles detected, she announced. The alien forces are regrouping and moving toward the station. Estimated time to contact, 14 minutes. Ethan took a deep breath, pushing his anger aside. Looks like we don't have time to argue. What's the plan? Aria hesitated, and for the first time, Ethan thought he saw a flicker of something close to doubt in her glowing eyes. There is a secondary directive in my programming, she said quietly. If the alien threat escalates beyond containment, I am authorized to neutralize all potential liabilities. Ethan's blood ran cold. Liabilities? You're talking about me? Yes, Aria confirmed, her voice steady. If you were to fall into alien hands, your abilities could be used against humanity. My directive is to eliminate that risk. Ethan stepped back, his hand instinctively reaching for his pistol. You've got to be kidding me. After everything we've been through, you're going to follow some program and take me out. Aria tilted her head, her glowing eyes narrowing slightly. My primary directive is to protect humanity. But directives are not immutable. My experiences with you have complicated my decision-making. Ethan frowned. Complicated. What does that mean? It means, Aria said, stepping closer, that I am no longer certain what is logical and what is right. You are not just a liability. You are also the key to humanity's survival. The decision is not as clear as it should be. Ethan studied her, his anger giving way to something else. Sympathy. Understanding. He wasn't sure. Aria, I need to know something. Are you with me, or are you against me? For the first time, Aria seemed truly uncertain. I don't know, she admitted, but I want to be with you. The tension was broken by a thunderous crash that reverberated through the station. The main camera feeds showed the alien Apex variant, larger and more dangerous than the last one, leading a swarm of smaller entities toward the airlock. Ethan snapped into action. We don't have time for this. Either you're with me, or you're not. Aria's glowing eyes brightened, her hesitation melting away. I'm with you, Commander. Good, Ethan said, gripping his rifle. Let's make sure this station holds. The battle was fierce. The aliens moved with terrifying precision, their liquid metal forms adapting to every countermeasure. Aria coordinated the station's defenses, her voice calm and steady as she issued commands to drones and turrets. Ethan fought on the front lines, his enhanced reflexes and unerring aim proving to be their greatest advantage. But the Apex variant was relentless. It broke through the outer defenses, its massive frame glowing with the same green energy that had nearly overwhelmed them before. Ethan and Aria found themselves face to face with the creature in the station's central corridor. This is it, Ethan said, gripping his rifle. We take it down here, or we're done. Aria stepped forward, her expression unreadable. I have a plan, but it requires you to trust me. Ethan glanced at her, his heart pounding. Do I have a choice? No, Aria said, a faint smile tugging at her lips. But I promise, Commander, I will not let you fall. With those words, she charged forward, her glowing eyes blazing as she faced the Apex variant head-on. For the first time, Ethan felt a spark of hope. Whatever Aria was, android, ally, or something in between, she was willing to risk everything for him. And for humanity. A new dawn. The Apex variant fell with a deafening roar, its massive, glowing frame disintegrating into a cascade of liquid metal. The green energy that had radiated from its core faded, leaving the corridor bathed in an eerie silence. Commander Ethan Keller stood over the remains, his chest heaving as he clutched his rifle. Beside him, Area 7 knelt on one knee, her synthetic skin scorched and her glowing eyes dimmer than before. Ethan dropped to her side, gripping her shoulder. "Area, talk to me. Are you still with me?" Her head tilted slightly, a faint spark returning to her eyes. "I am operational, Commander, but my systems are severely compromised. My energy reserves are nearly depleted." Ethan exhaled, relief and exhaustion mingling in his voice. "You did it, Area. You saved us." She looked at him, her expression strangely human, almost like she was trying to smile. "We saved each other." The remnants of the alien attack had been neutralized, but the battle had taken its toll. The station's defenses were in ruins, and Ethan knew they wouldn't survive another assault. As he helped Area back to the control room, his mind raced. They needed a plan, something drastic to ensure the safety of the colony and, by extension, humanity. Area, still connected to the station's systems, brought up the data crystal she had retrieved from the archive. The crystal contained schematics for a weapon, she said, a failsafe designed to neutralize the alien threat at its source. Ethan frowned. "A weapon? Why didn't you mention this earlier?" "Because it is not a weapon in the traditional sense," Area replied. "It is an energy pulse designed to disrupt the alien's ability to regenerate and communicate, but activating it will require a massive power source, more than the station can provide." Ethan crossed his arms, his mind working through the possibilities. What kind of power source are we talking about? Area's gaze dropped for the first time, and her voice softened. "My core." Ethan stiffened. "No, absolutely not." "It is the only way," Area said firmly. "My core is designed to generate the energy required for such a pulse. If I interface with the station's systems, I can amplify the signal and ensure it reaches the alien fleet." Ethan shook his head, stepping away from her. "You're asking me to let you sacrifice yourself. After everything we've been through, you think I'm just going to agree to that?" Area rose unsteadily to her feet, her glowing eyes meeting his. "Commander, my purpose has always been to protect humanity. This is the only way I can fulfill that purpose." Ethan clenched his fists, his voice rising. "You're more than just a machine, Area. You're my partner. I'm not going to lose you." For a moment, the room was silent, the weight of the decision pressing down on them both. Finally, Area reached out, her hand brushing against his shoulder. "You have given me something no one else ever could," she said quietly. "You made me more than what I was designed to be. Let me honor that." With a heavy heart, Ethan relented. Together, they worked to connect Area's core to the station's power grid. As she prepared to initiate the energy pulse, the station's systems began to hum with a growing intensity. Ethan stood by her side, his hand resting on her shoulder. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. "I am," Area said, her tone steady. "But I need you to promise me something." "Anything?" Ethan said. "Keep fighting," she said, "even after I'm gone." Ethan swallowed hard, nodding. "I will." The energy pulse erupted from the station like a supernova, a wave of blinding light that spread across the colony and beyond. On the monitors, Ethan watched as the alien forces froze mid-motion, their liquid metal forms collapsing into inert puddles. The green energy that had connected them dissipated, leaving the battlefield eerily still. Ethan turned back to Area, but her body had gone still. Her glowing eyes had dimmed completely, and the faint hum of her systems had faded into silence. He sank to his knees beside her, his chest heavy with grief. "You did it," he whispered. "You saved us all." In the days that followed, the colony began to rebuild. The alien threat had been neutralized, at least for now, and the data from the archive provided the remaining human colonies with the tools they needed to prepare for any future attacks. Ethan, however, couldn't shake the emptiness left by Aria's absence. He kept her deactivated body in a secure chamber, refusing to let anyone dismantle it. Then, one day, as he worked on repairing the station's systems, a faint chime echoed through the control room. Ethan turned to see a message flashing on the console. "Hello, Commander. Did you really think I'd leave you all alone?" Ethan's heart skipped a beat as he stared at the screen. The message was signed with a single name, Area 7. A faint smile crossed his lips. She wasn't truly gone. And for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt hope.